MSN Money declared Cincinnati one of the worst places in the United States for Black Americans to live, based on the disparities between blacks and whites. As a Black Cincinnatian, I concur with that statement. Cincinnati does not uphold the spirit of the Declaration of Independence that states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Cincinnati does not uphold the text of the Constitution of the United States of America that promises to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And Cincinnati does not reflect America's allegiance that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My experience in Hamilton County as the first and only African-American judge of the Hamilton County Juvenile Court in its 114-year history is that Cincinnati is systemically racist and politically corrupt. My experience is that power and control are reserved for the white men who manipulate purse strings of Hamilton County by tactics of intimidation designed to bully citizens into submitting to rogue leadership and criminalizing people of color who ascend to any rank of real power.
Amen.
When I was elected judge, I became the first African American in the history of Hamilton County that put me over one of the largest budgets in Hamilton County,
Tell the truth.
the juvenile court. Stephanie Dumas became the second when she was elected as a Hamilton County commissioner. Now she is experiencing similar attacks. It is this type of discrimination that led to the mistreatment of former Police Chief Blackwell, Assistant Police Chief Ronald Twitty, and led the first Black CEO of the United Way, Michael Johnson, to flee Cincinnati after only 3 months. Countless millions of dollars were spent and are still being spent to steal my judgeship and to destroy me as a human being because white men did not want a black person at the helm of one of the largest courts in Hamilton County.
Right. Yes, yes.
Make sure you report it all.
I never committed any crime.
Never.
And those behind this ongoing miscarriage and travesty of justice against me know that it was always about my county budget and power.
That's right.
I grew up in Forest Park, Ohio, was educated in Catholic and private schools like Corpus Christi, Assumption, and Ursuline Academy in Blue
Upstanding
Ash.
citizen.
My mother graduated in the top of her class at Our Lady of Angels, which is now Roger Bacon. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked hard for everything I ever attained in my life. No one called in favors to get me a job working anywhere, like Ohio Supreme Court Justice Pat DeWine, when he asked Joe Dieters to employ his sons in the prosecutor's office. I didn't have dozens of family members working in the court system like Joe Dieters, or a host of other judges or elected officials who ensured their family's job security based on their surnames and business contacts.
Illegal.
My parents, Charlotte and Stephen Hunter, sacrificed to send me to good schools and taught me the value of a good work ethic. They believed education would allow me to be anything in life I worked hard to be, like a judge and a lawyer. My father, a Vietnam War veteran, suffered a heart attack in the middle of my election lawsuit, right after the Cincinnati Enquirer wrote one of the worst untruthful stories about my life and career. He was in critical condition. My father was in critical condition the day I was sworn in. He died on the day that the Cincinnati Enquirer sued me, and my father was buried on the day the Enquirer trashed me on the front page of its paper. My father never got to see me sworn in as a judge or take the bench. If I had been sworn in when I actually won the election and didn't have to sue the Board of Elections to count the votes of black and disenfranchised people, my father would have been there. He would have been proud. He never got a chance to enjoy the fruits of this sacrifice.
Amen.
That's right. That's right.
Neither did I.
Amen.
In 2010, I ran for judge of the juvenile court because the juvenile system was broken.
Corrupt.
As a lawyer who practiced in the juvenile court, I saw the miscarriages of justice and the disparities that criminalize black and poor children,
Poor and
leading
black.
to the school to prison pipeline. I knew that poverty and a failing educational system, compounded by early contacts with the system, were disproportionately harming black children. I knew that if the children that entered the system would ever have a chance to succeed, they needed to be rehabilitated and educated.
Amen.
not
Like the law
criminalized.
says. Like the law says. Rehabilitate them.
After a nearly 2-year battle to get valid votes counted, I was finally sworn in on May 25th, 2012, 18 months after my official term started. Immediately, I began rehabilitating the children and ensuring fairness, justice, and equality for all those who entered my courtroom. In April 2013, I became the first judge in Ohio to ban the routine shackling of juveniles in my courtroom. The Ohio Supreme Court followed my lead and banned shackling across Ohio 3 years after me.
Yes. Yes.
In 2016, I ordered prosecutors to turn over police reports and critical evidence in my court rulings as judge. My cases, which were eventually upheld by the Ohio Supreme Court while I was on trial, became the new law in Ohio.
Yay! A law from a judge.
You won't report that.
Now the state must turn over critical evidence in juvenile court cases. I discovered that the juvenile court had been falsifying case statistics for years, and my exposure led to the complete overhaul of the juvenile court case management system to ensure accuracy in case reporting.
That's right.
Yes.
I ordered competency and psychological tests for children when their attorneys failed to do so. I crafted dispositions that emphasize education and rehabilitation over incarceration.
Yes.
By rehabilitating children, I
Yes.
reduced the recidivism rate and successfully helped integrate children into society.
Yes.
I hired African Americans in key positions like magistrates and directors of the court. While I was being called crazy and incompetent by Joe Dieters
Say
and
it.
all those who opposed my election, I was changing laws that make the criminal justice system better for future generations of families and children of every race and socioeconomic class. While I was focused on reunifying families and rehabilitating juveniles, I was sued for protecting children in the media. Although I had the largest caseload of any juvenile judge in the state of Ohio, over 14,000 cases, I was accused of not ruling timely and sued repeatedly, while my counterpart, John Williams, who
Say it.
actually had more cases lagging than me,
Say it.
was never sued.
Say it. Speak the
Joe
truth.
Dieters, despite his admitted conflicts of interest, insisted on representing me as my lawyer, even though he had a glaring admitted conflict. And the election lawsuit was still ongoing at the time he began representing me. He was both suing me and representing me at the same time.
Injustice.
Where does that happen? Conflict of interest.
When I was denied independent counsel and forced to let him represent me, he intentionally
report it.
failed to answer 13 lawsuits filed against me as judge. When he refused to file appeals in those cases, I was forced to defend the juvenile court, which was hurt by his office's negligence.
Say it.
I then filed complaints against Joe and 3 assistant prosecutors for mishandling those cases against me and in my courtroom. He retaliated 2 weeks later by accusing me of crimes and hiring his personal lawyers to indict me and charge me with crimes that they knew I never committed.
That's right.
Joe Dieters accused me of tampering with evidence, but a forensic computer expert proved they tampered with computers to frame me.
Yes.
Then they destroyed the computers.
Yes.
I was charged with 10 felonies in total, but I committed no crimes and I broke no laws. I followed the training of the Ohio Supreme Court that I received for judges. I was accused of securing a contract for a family member 41.42A1, which says no public official shall knowingly do any of the following: authorize or employ the authority or influence of the public official's office to secure authorization of any public contract in which the public official, a member of the public official's family, or any of the public official's business associations has an interest. I did not violate that statute, but Joe Dieters and Pat DeWine did.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't hire any family member at the juvenile court. My brother was hired years before I was elected, and he got his job based on his efforts alone, not a family connection like Dieters and DeWine.
Yes.
I went to trial and was blatantly denied justice and a fair trial. Many jurors were friends, neighbors, family members, and employees of those who falsely accused me of crimes. I was refused the right to poll my jury under Ohio Revised Code 2945.77, polling a jury. 3 jurors said guilty was not their verdict immediately following trial that same day. But Norbert Nadeau refused me the constitutional right to a fair trial, although the verdict was not unanimous, which the law requires. 5 years later, I am still fighting for justice, truth, and now my freedom. This Monday, July 22nd, I am scheduled to go to jail and be incarcerated in the Hamilton County Justice Center, despite not breaking any laws, while those who violated the statutes have yet to be investigated, charged, or suspended from their elected legal careers like me.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Injustice. Injustice.
The judge who threatens to put me in jail on Monday ran over and killed a black woman. Yet he received an independent visiting judge to preside over his wrongful death lawsuit. Joe Dieters received a visiting judge to preside over his divorce case. John Williams and Megan Shanahan received independent lawyers to represent them when they were sued as judges. I am the only judge in the state of Ohio that was stripped of my judicial immunity, charged with crimes, and suspended without due process, then stripped of my livelihood, while peer judges who received independent counsel in their cases and judges presided over the case against me, despite several Ohio Supreme Court decisions that say no peer judge in one county is to preside over the case involving another peer judge in that same county.
Judge.
In the Bible, the book of Amos chapter 5 verse 24 says, "But let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a mighty stream." Sojourner Truth asks, "Ain't I a woman?" I say, "Am I not a judge?"
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Because I was never treated like one. The same ones who vigorously opposed my election in 2010 are the exact same people led by Joe Dieters, who later falsely accused me of crimes, then became the judge, jury, and executioners. On Monday, July 22nd, they are scheduled to be my jailers too.
Wow.
Not right.
If they don't drop-
Injustice.
If they don't drop this unrighteous, wrongful
Tell it.
conviction
Tell
against
it.
me,
Tell it.
justice will never roll down in Cincinnati, nor righteousness like a mighty stream.
That's right. That's right.
And all I can pray
Say it.
is, Lord, have
Have
mercy
mercy.
on Hamilton County,
Yeah.
for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
May God help Cincinnati. May God help us all.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will not be paid.
No, not what they do.
We have other people that are going to
Make sure
make
y'all
a
report it
statement.
all.
Tracy, would you at least talk to us about this?
No, she's not making any
Okay,
statements.
I can just ask that question.
Got enough information.
Statements from the judge.
Got enough
I will
information.
say that you all received the press release. This is the biggest scam that Cincinnati's prosecutor, Hamilton County prosecutor, has ever pulled off in Hamilton County, probably even in the state. And This was a sham trial from the beginning.
Yep.
And we're drawing a line in the sand. Oh, this coalition is met by so many people that are representative here today. We are not going to sit by lightly and allow her to go to jail. You all, the media, have failed this case because you never did an IT report or an investigation on the jury. You never went to Dieters and asked him about all of the ethical and unlawful violations that occurred. So she laid it out for you today. We're drawing a line in the sand, and we're here today at the scene of the crime. And we're telling Joe Dieters, we're demanding you drop these charges. Full exoneration of this innocent judge. That's what we're here for today. We're not going to stop. We want this judge exonerated. That's what she deserves.
The other thing that we want today is we want the Hamilton County Commissioners to stop spending money today. Taxpayer money. They're still paying Shiva Decker money to persecute Judge Hunter. It is time to stop. We are at tens of millions of dollars, whether it's from the county to the state. Stop spending taxpayer money on a wrongful conviction of a lady who has done nothing wrong. Let her live her life and exonerate her now. That's right.
Well, you all heard it all. The judge said it all. The community is very upset regarding this issue. 115,000 plus voters voted for Judge Hunter. The Hamilton County prosecutors have systematically nullified those votes, and we're not going to stand for that. So Judge Hunter said it all. There needs to be investigations on a number of fronts, and one investigation that surely concerns me is the breakdown of the 60 jurors that were selected to be part of her process. There's no way conceivably possible that if you're selecting jurors through a computer in a random selection process, that those kinds of connections would have been on that jury and in that pool. So I'm very upset with that. I'm still looking into it, and I will be having a press conference regarding those jurors and how they're going to have to explain to me how that was a random selection process. It may involve a federal investigation to look at the process by which those jurors were selected. I'm very concerned about that. The destruction of the computers. Why was evidence that was supposed to be preserved by the prosecutors, why were those evidence destroyed when we wanted the forensic expert to look at the computers so that she could show that it was not her that entered the data into the computer and backdated the documents? They won't even, there's no stories on that. There's no stories on why would the judge say to the defense attorney, we're not gonna poll that jury. You know why I think he did that? That judge knew what that sealed verdict was. He knew that. And he did not want to risk anybody standing up saying guilty was not my verdict. He didn't want to risk that. So that needs to be looked at. Ask the Judge Nader, why did he not allow a polling of the jury? Now he's going to tell you something, but that polling was not done in open court that he said he did, because nobody knew what the verdict was. So it made no sense for them to say, well, Your Honor, we'd like to poll that jury, even though we don't know what the polling or what the jury verdict was. And the law clearly says the verdict has to be read in open court.
Let Tracie go.
Public.
Amen.
Let Tracie go.
Either side has the opportunity to request a polling. But this has all been part of power, folks, and control. Judge Hunter stepped up, won a race that nobody thought she could win. But her message, just as what she just said today, resonated with those voters way back then. And they are upset just as we are, because this system has a history and a systemic problem of treating people that they choose to treat a certain way in this criminal justice system. Black people. Black folks as well as poor folks, everybody. They treat them any kind of old way. They were expecting her to put 9, 10 charges on her, 10 felonies. They were expecting her to take a plea. They knew, well, she don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars, they took her income away, all of that, knowing that she did not have the resources to fight this thing. So they figured she would take a plea. They did it with Ron Twitty. They got him to take a plea. And that's been their problem. So I'm saying to all of you, we're gonna fight this thing, and Hamilton County and the city of Cincinnati need to drop the charges, and we need to move on. We need to exonerate this judge because, as she said, this city don't need this. This county don't need this. I'm very concerned, and hear me now. I was the head of the Human Relations Commission when I was concerned about civil unrest in the city. I'm very concerned that this may lead also to civil unrest if this city don't get its butt together.
That's right.
Simple as that.
It's got all the markings. It's got all the markings.
And I don't want it. There are a whole lot of other systemic problems that the city has. We saw what they did with FCC Cincinnati, and the people down there are upset.
That's right.
We see that poverty is pervasive in this city. We see all of this.
Got all the markers.
People are hurting. And this situation could conceivably be the spark that caused the problems that we're facing. So I'm urging all who are listening to the sound of my voice, hear me. We are on the crossroads of a potential problem in our city.
That's right.
That could cause a serious economic issue.
That's right.
When it comes to the city of Cincinnati. Thank you.